Torah Life Ministries come out of the world. Messiah people seek the truth.
Hello everybody, it's Paul Neeson with Torah Life Ministries, and we're reading this week's half Torah portion, and it is from Hosea 11:7 to 12:12. And we see here it starts off going a little in front of the 11:7 where it starts of Hosea. In 11:1 it says, "When Israel was a child, I loved him, and out of Egypt I called my son." So he called his people out of Egypt, and where they were kept as slaves. But it says, the more the prophets called them, the farther they went from them. They sacrificed to the foreign idols and offered incense to the idols. And that's what we saw in this week's Torah portion, what they were told not to do. But then we fast forward down to this week's half Torah portion, 11:7 of Hosea, and it says, "My people are hanging in suspense about returning for me, and though they call upon upwards, nobody makes a move." And that's no different from today's times. In today's times, we have a lot of people waiting for his return, and they're looking forward to that. You know, you got the Christians of today's world and the believers of today's world waiting for the Messiah to come back. But when it says nobody makes a move, nobody's taking an action. And there are a few that are taking an action to get back to his word, to get back to his Torah, his guidelines and instructions. But for the most part, this here is explaining Hosea 11:7, "My people are hanging in suspense about returning to me, and though they call themselves upwards, nobody makes a move." Nobody's taking an action. And that's what's happening today in the church. You have a lot of people out there praising the Father, praising him and saying, waiting for the Messiah to come back. But nobody's taking an action to do something. They're not living out the guidelines and instructions that Yeshua, known as the living Torah, told them to uphold. They're not keeping the appointed feast times. They're not keeping the Sabbaths. They're not following the commandments, the 10 commandments, any of the commandments. They want to live off the excuse that says, well, we have grace, so we don't need to do that anymore. Well, that's not what Yeshua said, and that's not what the scriptures say. It says you get grace by doing these things, and I will take away your sinful nature. So you won't have a desire to do these things that are against my Father's word anymore. We need to understand that, everybody, and we need to read the scriptures to understand the instructions and guidelines. We need to read this and understand what he wants us to do and how he wants to give us the blessings and how he wants us to deal with the mercy that he's given with us. Not to ignore it and not taking an action and doing what everyone simply does, going on every day. When you accept Yeshua as Messiah, something is supposed to change. You were supposed to hate the things that he hates and loves the things that he loves. And the word tells you what those things are. But if you don't know the word, if you start reading in the middle of the book and you don't read the Torah, the first 5 books of the scriptures, how are you going to know? Well, most people don't know, and as it says in Hosea 4:6, "My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Because you have rejected me, I reject you from being priest for me. Since you have forgotten the words of my Creator, I also forget your children." We need to study his word. We need to get right with his word. And then we need to take an action and follow his word. So go out there, read his word, and take action and live it out and see the blessings that come. And then you'll know the true meaning of what mercy really is. All right, everybody, this is Paul Neeson with Torah Life Ministries in this week's Half Torah Portia. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them below the video. Until then, shalom, shalom.
Seek the truth, avoid the evil, learn Yahweh's way.